What's going on, guys? Welcome to a new episode review for The Promised Neverland. This is Season 2, Episode 1. As always, I have Blue Spade.
So we weren't expecting to do a review of this today because I didn't think this episode was going to come out as early as it did. Because technically this episode was supposed to come out on Friday, but like a tweet by Aniplex from I think yesterday said that they're going to premiere the first episode of the new season like literally today on Funimation streaming site. So it like we watched it and it's like literally there. So I'm surprised that like they they decided to do it like this early. I don't know if this is going to be like this is what they're going to be doing weekly, or if they're just going to follow through with their regular Friday schedule.
Yeah, like I was saying before this recording, I kind of hope they just go to the, they just do the Friday schedule, because we already kind of are, we have a lot of like different episode reviews that we're already doing, each day. So like, we've got Higurashi, we've got ReZero Season 2, we have The Promised Neverland Season 2, and of course we have Attack on Titan, the final season. So it's like we've got like 4 different anime where like episode reviews. I
mean, there's like a couple other anime series that I would have liked to review, but we just stuck to the 4 we picked because we just didn't want to overload ourselves with too much stuff.
Yeah.
So The Promised Season 2 just immediately starts out with a bang with like with a sequence in which takes place later in the episode with like Emma and Ray, like with the rest of the kids, just trying to escape from this monster chasing them throughout the forest. And then and then it immediately transitions into like the new opening for the season, which it's actually a really good opening. It just shows off like pretty much the fates of all the children that were in those in those orphanages, or what was it, those or those different the farms that they always live in, and then having to be shipped out and be just become products for all the demons that they're being shipped to. I think I like the new opening. I do not like the song quite as it's still good. I just don't like it quite as much as the first one, but I think the animation is actually better, or like it just looks better than the first opening did, in my opinion. The first season was a lot more self-contained, so they the characters didn't have a lot of action sequences.
And I mean, in this opening, we get teased as to some of the new characters that we met that might show up, but we don't get we don't get to really see their faces. Some of them are kind of obscured, so I kind of like the way they did that, because it's like I knew what character they were showing, but I kind of liked how they at least didn't totally like show the new character, so we don't really get spoiled as to who it is. So I think that was a good decision. But yeah, it was a good opening. Like I thought it was a pretty good decent new opening.
This episode was like pretty much starts off tense, like right off the bat. I mean, shortly.
I mean, it makes sense because as we know from the first season, they're being chased. They were being chased by the demons. So this basically just picks up right where that left off, where they're still being chased by all the demons after they had been alerted that they had escaped from Ricefield orphanage. We do skip to a scene, transition to a scene like earlier in this episode. So like we see pretty much Emma and the rest of the kids just trying to travel from one location to this these coordinates that Ray's been given like inside the pen. I forgot what numbers they were, but apparently it gives them a holographic images of where they're currently at, and then the coordinates of where they need to go to. And of course, like they're also given instructions of how to survive the field, including like getting water from inside the plants. They also learn the coordinates by reading like these textbooks or something that the words like correspond to, or something like that. That's how they find out what it is. You go ahead. Oh well, yeah, I was just gonna say, and the basically like we still, of course, as we know, like in the first season, both Emma and Ray have their ears cut off, so basically Emma is still like I think bleeding out from having where she cut her ear, so that's kind of something that it comes back to sort of bite her in the later on in the episode.
Well, same thing with Ray, because he also had to cut off his ear at the same time. But yeah, so they eventually keep traveling along the forest, and eventually night comes around, and then they eventually hear something in the forest, and then they see like a bunch of fireflies fly towards them. And then of course, that's where the monster we saw earlier on this episode starts chasing them.
Yeah. It's I mean, at least like for the most part, there's not a lot of CG in this episode, but obviously the monster chasing it was just like a CG monster.
I don't think it was CG, was it?
It looked like it was.
I don't think it was. No, it didn't look CG from when I looked at it. I mean, the fireflies kind of looked CG-ish at some point, but I don't think the monster was, to be honest. But they do eventually use their survival skills they learned at the Grace house to pretty much lure the monster away and then separate it at several points. And then they try to lay a trap for the monster. However, as soon as they're about to trap the monster, it gets beheaded, and they're already being chased by the hunter demons that were chasing them since Grace house.
I think Ray tries to distract them and lead them away, while Emma tries to lead the rest of the children to safety. I think that's when she faints from having her ear, her ear is still where she got her ear off, is still bleeding out.
And then of course the kids end up sort of panicking as what to do. Eventually they carry Emma, and then they eventually run into this mysterious looking hooded girl out in the field, which of course she leads them to a safe haven somewhere in the forest. And then we transition back to Ray, which he's still somehow running away from those those beast demons that are still chasing him. Eventually he eventually gets cornered, and then just gives out shortly afterwards. But shortly before the demons are about to capture him, one mysterious guy and demon on the horse. I mean, you can obviously tell he's a demon-looking guy on whatever this thing he's riding on. This guy grabs Ray and then just takes him to the exact same shelter that Emma and the rest of the kids are at.
So I think then we cut back to Emma. She wakes up, wherever she'd been taken, and she doesn't know where she is at first. And then she's I think this isn't after that she meets up with Ray again. And
of course, Emma's been given medicine to help treat her wound and her fever, from the her cutting off her ear earlier. I would assume the same thing, to Ray, because he also did the same thing. And eventually they end up meeting that mysterious looking hooded girl that helped out the other kids. And so she tries to lead him to the other kids, saying that that they're having dinner in another area. But of course shortly afterwards they do Emma and Ray notice something strange about her, and they immediately just
I think Ray was the first one to notice it. And then he says why is a demon saving humans? Because then it cuts to her foot, which is this is not
I mean that pretty much. And of course the same demon that saved Ray on horseback earlier just comes up from behind, and that's where the episode immediately just cuts out from there.
Pretty crazy way to end the first second seasons after the first episode. Because that's something totally new, just there being the idea, I guess, of there being good demons that might help humans.
Which
and then of course in the ending we kind of get more the whole ending, it seems like it was just focused mainly on this girl and the other
kind of
guy.
wish they didn't really show that, because it just kind of confirms that they're not really bad demons in the first place.
It does kind of it does definitely kind of give the viewer the impression they're not gonna be bad guys.
But I thought that this episode it felt like it went by pretty fast, in my opinion. I mean, still a lot of stuff happened in this episode, but it's definitely a good way to start off like the first part of the second season, which like which I'm curious like how like well this season like you can obviously tell this is going to be significantly different than what we saw like than the whole the whole condensed like version that we saw back in the first season.
Yeah, the first part was like just I think called the escape arc. The arc they're getting into I think is going to be like the Goldie Pond arc. But yeah, there is some stuff that happens before that, so this is basically like these episodes are kind of going to be in between those two arcs, I think. So but yeah, like it definitely this was a pretty good way to start off the season. Like I like how the episode did go by pretty fast, and that's mostly just because like the majority of the episode was them just being chased by the hunter demons, and then of course eventually being helped out by these mysterious new demons, who we just don't really know anything about yet. So it's a pretty good way, a pretty crazy cliffhanger to leave off on. So we just have, I mean, obviously I guess you could assume there probably could have been good demons in the first season, but we just didn't know. So maybe these guys are good, maybe they have ulterior motives. It's too early to say, but yeah, that was an interesting way to end off the first episode.
Yeah.
For sure.
One thing I want to point out is earlier today I looked in how many episodes are in here. There's actually 11 episodes this season, which is like, I mean, I'm curious as to why it's it's like one episode short than a normal season.
Yeah, it does have me a little bit concerned. I mean, it definitely, I think it should be 12 to 13 considering what they're covering, and a little bit strange, just 11 episodes. But I remember we also didn't we hear the rumor that they said there would be some new stuff in this season as well, like there would be like some new story content.
Yeah, they did. I think the creator of the author of of Promised Neverland mentioned that there was going to be some new stuff, I guess maybe to clarify some stuff or something. I don't know the full extent as to what he's
I could assume that maybe he's going to flesh out these characters we were just introduced to more, maybe, because I do remember in the manga, I won't spoil anything, but I'll say like they just don't they don't really, their characters don't really get that fleshed out, at least from what I read of it. So maybe that's what he's going to do. And I mean, the whole ending just kind of being about them kind of makes me feel like maybe that's where he's going with it, but I'm not really sure. I mean, there's definitely some problems later on with the story of Promised Neverland in the manga. So I mean, I think hopefully maybe he'll use this as an opportunity to kind of fix some of the plot, some parts of some plot points from the manga, and maybe like either flesh it out more or kind of explain it better. Because a lot of people had problems with how the ending, of course, of the manga being rushed. So maybe if they get to that point, like in the anime, it won't feel so rushed. Maybe he'll do something else. That is assuming, of course, that the anime will cover the entirety of the manga story. So I don't know. Not really sure what the new story, what new content is actually going to be added in the anime. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
So from what I can tell, there's like 20 volumes of Promised Neverland.
Yeah,
and so. How many volumes do you think we're at right now, based on episode count?
4 or 5. I think it might be 4.
Okay.
I think we're at volume 4.
Okay, so if it's 20 volumes, and I mean, I could speculate that we might get at least 4 or 5 seasons at most. I don't know. That's my speculation at this point.
Yeah, probably maybe if it keeps the same episode count, then yeah.
Yeah, because like 11 episodes is not gonna cover like everything that we that's already done in the manga or the light novel. So we'll have to see what's gonna happen for next week, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean, I know a lot of people in the manga, they say like the other story arcs are not as, that happen later are not as good as the escape arc in the first one. I kind of have to agree, like from what I've read of the manga. So, but I mean, I will say the next arc they're going into is actually, for the most part, in my opinion, it was pretty solid. it's really like I would say it's really the arcs after that where it starts to take a bit of a nosedive in terms of its quality, in my opinion, but not too much. Like, it doesn't really go into, you know, being mediocre or bad, in my opinion, but you know, yeah, I can definitely see the opinion of it not being as good as the first arc. I guess if people just kind of go into this with, you know, after hearing those rumors, I would suggest at least going into it with an open mind, you know, because obviously it's not going to be the same kind of, you know, because like you said, like, you know, it starts off pretty different, and, you know, the story kind of goes in a bit of a different direction after they escape from the Gracefield house. So, but yeah, I didn't really mind the different direction, but, you know, so, but anyways, I guess we'll just have to see what happens in the next episode. I think this is definitely a good way to start off. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to
no, I enjoyed the way this episode started off, and, you know, what it's gonna, well, like pretty much hinting at what it's gonna show off for this particular season after, you know, how, like, pretty much show us how different, you know, this season's gonna be compared to the first season.
Yeah. Yeah, so that all being said, I guess hopefully at least until next Friday, we'll see you all next time.